It was 3 a.m., and Clara was still awake. She sat at her desk, her tired eyes glued to the screen in front of her. The deadline for her project was fast approaching, and she was nowhere near finished. Every attempt she made to focus felt like a battle. The words wouldn't come. The ideas were jumbled in her head. She had been working on this project for months, but now, with only a few hours left, she felt like she was losing the fight. She stared at the clock. The pressure was mounting, the weight of failure heavy on her chest. "I can't do this," she whispered to herself. "I should just give up." But she didn't. Instead, Clara closed her eyes for a moment. The noise in her mind slowed down, and for just a second, she remembered why she started. She remembered the excitement she felt when she first decided to take on this challenge. She remembered how everyone told her it would be impossible, how she doubted herself but still chose to push forward. "Maybe I can finish this after all," she thought. With renewed determination, Clara turned back to the screen. She took a deep breath and started typing again. 2 years earlier, Clara had been in a completely different place. She had always wanted to become a writer, but life had always gotten in the way. Her dreams seemed so far away. Every time she thought about writing a book, the doubts came rushing in. Who would read my story? Am I good enough? Maybe I should just forget it. She tried to push these thoughts aside, but they always crept back in, louder and stronger. Every time she sat down to write, she struggled with self-doubt. Every word felt like it was being pulled from her, like it didn't belong. One day, after another failed attempt, Clara almost gave up. She thought about quitting writing altogether. It would be easier, wouldn't it? After all, there were so many others out there who were more talented, more experienced. She wasn't good enough. But there was one thing she couldn't ignore. Deep down, there was a spark in her that wouldn't go away. A small voice inside her said, "What if I kept going? What if I just tried one more time?" And so, Clara pushed through. She sat back down at her desk, even when it felt impossible, and wrote one more sentence, then another, and another. Slowly, those sentences turned into paragraphs, and those paragraphs turned into pages. She kept writing, not because she was confident, but because she simply couldn't give up. Months passed. Clara's story didn't magically get easier. There were days when she wanted to throw her work out of the window. She had moments where she felt like everything she wrote was terrible. She'd read over her words and think, "This isn't good enough. This will never work." But the one thing she refused to do was stop. Even when she felt exhausted, even when her progress seemed so small, she kept showing up. She kept writing, even when the words didn't come easily, even when she wasn't sure if anyone would ever care about her story. One day, after a long period of hard work, Clara finished the first draft of her novel. She sat back in her chair and stared at the screen, amazed. She had done it. She had finished. It wasn't perfect, but that didn't matter. She had kept going. Clara submitted her manuscript to publishers, and she was rejected twice, then 3 times, 4 times. Every rejection stung, but she kept going. She didn't let the word no stop her. She kept believing in her work and in herself, even when it felt like no one else did. Then, one day, after what felt like endless rejections, Clara got an email from a publisher. They loved her manuscript. They wanted to publish her book. Tears filled her eyes as she read the email over and over. It was real. It was finally happening. Her dream, the one she almost gave up on so many times, was coming true. A year later, Clara's book was on the shelves of bookstores. It was selling well, and readers were praising it. She had done it. But more than that, Clara realized something powerful. The journey was never about the book. It was about what she learned along the way. She had learned that success wasn't about being perfect. It wasn't about being the best or the fastest. It was about showing up every single day, even when things felt impossible. It was about believing in herself, even when the doubts were louder than the hope. It was about refusing to give up. Clara's story is one of countless stories of people who face hardships, doubts, and failures. But the one thing they all have in common is this: they refuse to give up. Whether it's a project, a dream, or a personal goal, we all face moments where it feels easier to quit. We all hit walls, but the power doesn't come from never falling down. It comes from getting back up. So, if you're standing at the edge of giving up, remember this: the moment you decide to keep going is the moment everything can change. Clara's story is proof that never giving up isn't just a bow.